All right, everybody, thank you for your patience. Thanks for your grace. We've been having Microsoft issues all week. I know it's only Wednesday, but it's been all week for us. With all our facilities, so we know it's a Microsoft issue. I just want to check that folks online can hear. Thank you. Okay, my name is Marta Loachamin. I'm a county commissioner here in Boulder County. Today is March 11th, 2026. We're here for a regional elected official. That is the title. That's the actual group name. So I just want to appreciate staff for helping keep us organized, for bringing us back to some of the tasks that we have said that we were going to do, and that's why we're here, and we're just continuing this work. We're going to give a minute here to do some introductions, and definitely want to welcome our newer members. Councilmember Jensen, you were able to join us in one of the previous meetings before I think you were before our official meeting of this meeting, but so just want to say welcome, and also to Councilmember Benjamin, who's here to as we help you catch up, and also just make sure that you've got the information. So but let's do introductions, and I just was making sure everything's recording, so I'm just making sure I've got everything happening here on my side. And so let's start online, and I can see you, Trustee JT, so I'm gonna you're on, so I'm gonna have you introduce yourself first.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Typically, I would be in person with you, but I've been fighting some sort of terrible virus this week, and I'm just starting to feel a little bit better today. And I wouldn't want to wish this on anybody, so I'm going to stay here, safe at home, and not contaminate anybody. I've been with the Board of Trustees with the Town of Lyons for the last 4 years, and I've been a member of this commission probably for the last year. So happy to be here.
That's great. I'm glad you're feeling well enough to participate, and we are okay if you stay home. We appreciate that.
I thought you might appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamilton.
Hi, everyone. Barbara Hamilton, council member in Louisville, Colorado, signing in from sunny Phoenix. I also have Sama Fox on the phone as well. She's virtual. She's driving right now, so I'll take the opportunity to introduce her to the group as well. Sama Fox is our deputy city manager, and my trusted partner, who is also been engaging in these conversations and listening online for quite some time now.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Let's hear Councilmember Jensen.
Hi, I had a little procedure done on my face and I have stitches, so I'm keeping my camera off. But I am a newly elected city councilor from Lafayette, and been working on affordable housing issues personally for about 30 years, and I'm happy to be on this group.
Thank you, and I hope you have a speedy and safe recovery. Thanks for joining us. And I think that's all the folks online. If somebody else joins, I'll try and be paying attention so that we can give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So here's the table. The council member.
I'm Jen Cowish, council member, South Superior.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Benjamin, Boulder City Council.
Welcome. Thank you. Let's see here. I had my glasses on a minute ago and I don't have them on now. So you want to go through the agenda really quick while I pull that up?
Sure.
Thanks.
So for Heidi Grove, Homeless Systems and Coordinated Response Division Manager in the Boulder County Housing Department.
Hi, I'm Jan Peterson, Boulder County Administrator.
Charles Barringer, Coordination Specialist for the Boulder County Housing Department, Division of Homeless Systems and Response.
Susan Lopez Baker, Boulder County Housing Department Director.
Sophia Beal. I serve as the Director of Strategy and Impact at Metro Denver Homeless.
Good evening, Jason Johnson. I serve as Executive Director at the Metro Denver Homeless.
Good evening, Marta Mendoza, City of Longmont, Human Services Program Manager.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Bernard, do you want to introduce yourself? Thank you. All these issues are important. Thank you. And just want to acknowledge staff. Thank you all for being here and helping us do this really important work. So we are going to move into, we've got a presentation this evening. I feel like, do you want to stand up? Oh, no, probably not. If you want to move up here, you're welcome to, because it might help actually with the sound as well for those folks online. This room is a little, if you start talking to the side, folks online can't hear you. So try and speak towards the front there. And we're really honored that you would join us. And
Thanks for having us.
we're happy to hear from you. Our agenda on here, we've got time until 6:15. So just to kind of give us all an opportunity to think about timing and what else we're gonna do.
I was told to skip this, but yeah. We want to do a quick overview of our agreement.
Oh, we can do that. I apologize. Okay. We did go through this earlier. This might help just from a level setting standpoint, and then I'm looking at both of our new folks, and also just as all of us as a reminder, because we get pulled into so many different topics, and housing and homelessness and all the safety net needs and all that, it can start feeling like it is all connected, and it starts feeling a little bit jumbled. So our group and what our prior agreements really are, and this purpose statements on there that's towards ensuring that homelessness is rare, brief, and one-time occurring, is about helping people through compassion, support systems, and social justice. And so that is a purpose statement that this group has been working on and put together. There's a couple of prioritized topics, and again, I feel like maybe 24. We went through some of these different conversations. We had a few different presentations. We were really trying to figure out what could we regionally do. And this group really leaned into what exists in the state of Colorado that could give us some opportunities. And because of the state legislation that passed, and a lot of us were involved in looking at different ways that we could open up doors, because we believe that that actually has a direct impact on folks who are either about to lose their home, who have been experiencing homelessness and need, or need that other opportunity, and other folks who we've heard a lot about just sustainability in these times in the last couple of years with raising taxes, insurance, inflation, all the different things. And also we had a presentation and got some information about folks who use housing vouchers for doors. And so that's really where everybody, okay, what would that look like if we talked about backyard cottages and or accessory dwelling units? How do we look at accessory dwelling units from a rehabilitation, renovation, construction that already exists, rooms that aren't being used in properties, and how do we help folks really consider how we could use infrastructure that's already there or property that's already there, so we don't have construction issues that tend to happen with other projects. So that is the first one, is really just how might we together as a region work together to eliminate barriers of access to accessory dwelling unit backyard cottages. So that's the first one. I won't redo the entire piece there. The slide deck will go out for you if you didn't get that. The other item that folks were interested in talking about was the setting a target of 10 to 12% of new affordable housing builds. And that's something that already exists from the Regional Housing Partnership, but this group was really wanting to lean in and think about, okay, what kind of requirements, local regulations could we put in to around funding, and kind of just initial preliminary idea. This one, I would just say, in my mind, the prioritized topics are actually numbered. So we've got bullet points on there, but the first piece is ADU, and then the second piece, we talked about focusing on the 10 to 12. But in the middle of that, we also had a presentation last year in regards to how new communities and developments could be part of the solution of folks experiencing homelessness. And so there is a lot of interest from this group last year, and how could we add that into the prioritization and work that this group does. And so that is, I think a lot of folks are kind of like, okay, let's, when, after we get kind of an ADU piece, and that is really what we're working on tonight, then we could start thinking about siting and financial analysis for Boulder County new community to address this topic. So that is what this group has been working on as kind of a commitment, what we have prioritized as far as, there was a ton of different ideas, like any group that you've ever been on. And we really, and I'll say I was really trying to help our group focus on one item at a time, because otherwise it's really challenging, and we are all doing a lot of other work. And so none of this means that people can't do their own work on homelessness or other services or housing, et cetera. But for this group, our lane together is trying to eliminate barriers to access to accessory dwelling units and backyard cottages in Boulder County region collectively. So let me really quick just ask if there's anybody that has any questions or comments on this particular slide, either the purpose statement or the prioritizations. Go ahead.
So just for clarification, one of the things that Commissioner Loachamin talked about is Austin, Texas actually was able to secure a HUD waiver that is in play nationally to actually split vouchers across different SROs. And so that was something that we really wanted to explore. Like, is that possible?
Thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
So I have a question about the third bullet about the target of 10 to 12% of new affordable housing is dedicated to permanently supportive housing. Like with the regional housing partnership, there was a dedicated effort to take that before every city council to get that goal and get them to approve that original goal of 12%. Is something happening like that on the third bullet, or is it planned in the future?
The plan is for the future of this group to look at, and if you, it's a little hard to see on the highlights, but the part that's connected to the goals of inclusionary housing or affordable housing in any constructions, any projects in any towns. The group was talking about identifying consequences for jurisdictions that fall behind. So trying to figure out where's the teeth in that goal that the RHP and all the communities that were involved in that process have been working on. So this might not be the exact language, but that was the concept that the group really wanted to carry forward after AD work happens. Does that
okay?
help?
I appreciate that and I get that answer, but as I'm reading this, that the part I'm struggling with is the first up until all jurisdictions set a target of 10 to 12% of new affordable housing builds being dedicated to permanently supportive housing. So if we're doing a development that's an inclusionary housing development and it's got 12% that is affordable, what I'm reading that to say is of the 12% that's affordable, 10 to 12% of that should be permanently supportive. That's how I'm reading that. And I just wonder, is that correct? And if so, is there some effort to discuss that and get local governments to agree on that?
You're right on the interpretation. That was one of the topics that the group, when we went through the last survey, I think it was in 24, and the concept of adding a percent to new constructions to be permanently supportive housing came from several different people. And so I just want to clarify that it's still conceptual, but that what you're reading in there is exactly what was brought up by different members of this group. It is not something we're working on right now. We don't have a subcommittee. We're not going to be doing a subcommittee, but when we get done with this accessory dwelling unit work, that will be another topic that this group, and we may have to go back to the table and decide, like, in that, how do we may pull that apart, or we may do something a little bit different, but that was conceptual.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, we'll have some time later for some conversation. All right, I apologize. I brought you up to do your presentation, and then I told, but thank you all for your grace. And Heidi, I don't know if you wanted to introduce. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, do you want to introduce while I try to pull up the second presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
So yeah, we are joined this evening for our folks here at NBHI. Jason, you've been the executive director for what, going on 2 years now?
Not quite, but yeah, a little over a year. I started in January of 25.
Oh, wow. How time flies. And yeah, Sophia, how long have you been with MDHI?
Going on 5 years.
Oh, geez.
That's an appropriate.
Great. Well, really appreciate having some time with you. Thanks for fitting us into your agenda. We're really excited to be here in Boulder to talk about our strategic plan and some restructuring that we're in the midst of designing and developing. So really appreciate having some time with you. I think this is exactly the kind of group that we want to be in front of. We're bringing these presentations into all 9 subregions in Metro Denver. And we're on the early end of an entire march of presentations to various different stakeholders and partners. So really glad to be here. Again, Jason Johnson, I serve as Executive Director of the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, or MDHI. I'm here with my colleague, Sophia Vigil, and we're going to run through 2 topics. First, we're going to talk about this strategic framework. This is a body of work that folks across the region helped put together. And then secondly, we're going to talk about the board, specifically the Continuum of Care board, and some restructuring of that board that's underway. We are going to run through a lot of information, and we want to make sure that there's time for questions and discussion at the end. That's built into our 30 minutes. But of course, if there's any clarifying questions, if we're using acronyms that you don't understand, if there's anything you need us to stop and define, we're happy to do that. It's not an interruption to ask us to stop. So again, thanks for the time today. And Sophia, I'll kick things over to you to get started.
Yeah, just extending gratitude again and appreciation for spending time in this community. One of the things we often talk about at the regional level is just how important local leadership is in addressing homelessness, and Boulder County has been a long example of communities that come together across jurisdictions to tackle complex challenges like homelessness. And so today I'm going to briefly walk through MDHI's regional strategic framework. This is a high-level review, not a prescriptive, of everything that we're doing and how it connects to the work that's happening here in Boulder County and across the entire region. So I'm going to ground us in some context about MDHI and how we operate. I'm going to kind of fly through that a little quickly and spend most of my time talking through our 5-year aims and the framework that we're implementing. And so MDHI, our mission is everything that we do leads up to this mission, which is to lead and advance collaboration to end homelessness so that everyone in our region has a safe, stable place to call home. We coordinate across 7 counties and over 40 municipalities, and our role at MDHI is to truly support the alignment across our 7 counties so that the region can move towards shared outcomes. So MDHI's role in the community primarily is being the lead agency for the region's continuum of care, where we are here to coordinate Metro Denver's response to homelessness in alignment with the federal strategies. We serve in a couple capacities and have a few different primary activities, and those are overseeing the implementation of the Homeless Management Information System, coordinating the yearly point-in-time count, implementing the coordinated entry system, bringing in that federal funding and monitoring it, as well as serving as the backbone organization for regional coordination. And so as the backbone organization, really leaning into sharing data, learning, and collaboration across the region. And so most of our collaboration efforts happen through our subregions. So we oversee a large region. We're a staff of 25. We can't be everywhere at one time. And so we really lean on each local lead within our 9 subregions. This was modeled after Dr. Cogg's transportation model. So wanted to take that approach in 2020 to split our large region into 7 counties, plus the city of Aurora and the Tri-Cities, who are also coordinating a body of work around homelessness locally. And so one of the reasons that this sub-regional structure works, specifically in Boulder County, is because it allows communities to coordinate responses across jurisdictional lines while still respecting local priorities. So similar to the work that you all are doing here in coordinating across the different municipalities, we're doing that at the higher level across the counties and our cities as well. And so we are all, the 9 subregions, taking a different path, but we're all working towards the similar goal of ensuring homelessness is rare and brief across our region.
Sorry, just a quick clarifying question. Can you tell us what Tri-Cities, who's that? Who's
Yeah.
that?
Great question. It is Sheridan, Littleton, and Inglewood.
Thank you. I had that question.
Yeah,
too.
like, you say there's so many ways to, like, you know, in Adams County, the Tri-Counties were Adams, Arapahoe, and Denver, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't fit on the slide. Otherwise it would be up there. Okay, and we talk about ending homelessness a lot. We often use interchangeably ending, solving homelessness. There's no final destination or final state we're trying to reach. I think we can dream and work towards that, but truly ending homelessness is constantly solving homelessness. It means that we have systems in place from prevention to crisis response to housing and supports that can meet the needs of our communities. That way, homelessness is rare and brief when it does occur. We aim to have a dynamic understanding of everyone that's experiencing homelessness by name. And we say in real time, but we'll never know truly in real time because homelessness is so dynamic, but on a more regular basis than the annual point in time count. So we're working towards rare and brief. And we got this from Community Solutions and Built for Zero. They're our guide for a lot of this work. Okay, now into the strategic framework. We didn't want to set a strategy on our own. Amongst the 25 of us. So we really leaned into the community to guide our direction over the next 2 years. That started primarily in Q4 through a convening at the statewide forum with about 45 partners, where we did an activity that reflected on the past and vision beyond 2028. So had a lot of participation there, and we wanted to ensure that this strategy truly reflected the practical experience of what is happening across our community. Then we moved into another few in-person meetings where we then drilled into different population level aims, sub-regional aims, and then finally presented a draft of what our framework is to our regional partners, sub-regional partners. We have about 13 of them that meet monthly in December, and they gave us the go-ahead to keep moving forward with the framework. Next slide.
Try.
Okay, and so this framework is really a continuation of work that has been happening. At the end of 2025, we hit our 3-year mark into our 5-year goals. So really using the last 6 months to reflect on what work has been happening, where we need to adjust and adapt as we're striving towards these 5-year aims. So these are our original 5-year aims that were implemented in 2020, late 2021, early 2022, where we were aiming to know every person experiencing homelessness by name and in real time, end homelessness for veterans, and also end homelessness for additional populations across our sub-regions.
Can you clarify what you mean by end home, like functional zero?
Functional zero.
Seems to be a
Yeah.
something people don't understand.
Yeah, and so functional zero is a term that Community Solutions, the national nonprofit, and the people that invented the Built for Zero framework have used. They're shifting that language from functional zero to rare and brief and putting specific calculations and metrics behind that state. So we're also shifting away from some of the language that we've used previously that is specific to Built for Zero. So functional zero is something it's insider baseball and some people know what it means, but we're really working to translate that so that anyone across our community knows what we mean when we say end homelessness or when we say homelessness is rare and brief. So more to come there, and I will share that with Heidi and Trevor as we get those definitions.
And when folks are saying that they reach functional zero, it means that you have less than 3. And
For veterans.
And for veterans that are on your by name list, actively experiencing homelessness. So it's not that like you have 0, it's 3 or less.
Thanks, Heidi. When you say that, or when you say folks, if folks say they have hit functional zero, you're talking about if municipalities or jurisdictions say
All the
that?
above, like Douglas County last year hit functional zero for veterans. And that means they have less than 3 or less on their by name list.
Yes, and there is a verification process for that. So we wanted to see specifically for Douglas County that people who were exiting to housing. It was a 50-50 on whether they were exiting to housing or exiting due to inactivity. Balance. Yeah. Okay, so
Did I skip something?
Yeah.
I think so.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so as I mentioned, we updated our 5-year aims at the end of last year to reflect more where we're headed and where we think we could be in 2 years. Not a drastic change. We're still aiming to reduce homelessness and ensure it's rare and brief for specific populations. Still very focused on knowing everyone by experiencing homelessness by name, as informed by HMIS. And also, we're still shooting for the moon to ensure homelessness is rare and brief for veterans across the region. In 2025, we saw a 20% reduction across our entire region. So we have just under 400 veterans that we know that are experiencing homelessness across all of Metro Denver. We also set some specific goals around reducing youth and family homelessness. And then we set a goal to reduce single adult and chronic homelessness in 2 of our 9 subregions. And this is in acknowledgement of the current environment that we're navigating. We still think there are communities that can achieve this. I could see this happening in Boulder County due to a lot of the local investment that you all have. So we think it's possible across some of our subregions, but as a region as a whole have not set a reduction for single adult and chronic. Cool. So Boulder County. So when we came together in October, we asked community partners some areas of focus that they would like to see over the next 2 years. Boulder County specifically called out enhancing coordination efforts across youth homelessness and family homelessness in the county and overall across the region. For youth and family homelessness, we are truly going to have to take a larger regional approach as many of our family and youth resources support the entire Metro Denver region. So looking to set a large regional table that can address youth and family homelessness and support the efforts that are already happening in Boulder County. There was also a call to have continuous improvement and a strategy for reducing single adult homelessness, which is happening at the HSBC level right now in forming that strategy. This is inclusive of veteran and chronic populations as well. And so the specific aim that was set out was to have reductions across all subpopulations and ensure homelessness is rare and brief for veterans. As of, I believe, March 5th, there were currently 16 veterans actively experiencing homelessness in Boulder County, which is a 50% reduction from this time last year. So there were 34 veterans, I believe, experiencing homelessness last March. Cool. So this is the framework. The aim statement you see is the same as the North Star, and that we want to reduce homelessness, ensure it's rare and brief. We have 5 primary drivers, 4 that are focused on supporting our external community, and the 5th one focusing on how we operate as an organization. So want to focus on this crisis response system, establish and maintain effective ways of working across our entire region. We want to support case management and anyone that's doing the work across our region. We also want to start influencing enabling conditions in our broader ecosystem. This is through narrative change or policy alignment or working across different sectors, because we know there are many different systems that interact and interplay with homelessness, and we can't solve this in a silo. And so the other piece too is we want to implement targeted homeless reduction strategies. This can be like prevention efforts. Many communities across our region are talking about prevention because we can't crisis respond our way out of homelessness. And as I mentioned, the 5th one is really focused on how we operate internally as an organization to ensure we have the infrastructure in place to support ARC. And then this builds off that one. These are 2-year high, very, very high level activities that we're going to focus on. I won't read them all, but some of them look at governance and how we're structured to have the community give feedback and input into how decisions are made for our entire region. We look to set the goals beyond 2027. So looking at next year and using that space and time to set another regional strategy and look at our next 5-year aims or 2 years Want to strengthen regional coordination, improve learning across the community, and really create one voice in Metro Denver for homelessness response with shared messaging and regional resource mobilization. We also aim to decrease the number of people actually homelessness, reduce time to permanent housing, and increase retention. So there will be activities in our 6-month work plans that aim to achieve these items. And so I'm sharing this to a few of our highlighted activities for the next 6 months, just for transparency and honestly for accountability as well. In that the first one you'll see is we're implementing a revised governance structure for the COC and for the organization, which Jason is going to talk about here in a couple minutes. We want to publish 2 community-facing dashboards that show us how we're performing as a community as defined by HUD, system performance and community performance. We also want to develop the foundation for a robust adult lived experience committee. We have a strong young adult leadership committee, and so need to translate that up to adults who are over the age of 25. And the other one I'll call out too here is we are working to develop the initial fund mapping of the regional resources that exist, from prevention to crisis response to supportive services across the entire region. And this was truly modeled off of the work that has happened in Boulder County. Heidi graciously shared the template that she created, and we're modeling our entire region's fund mapping off of that as well. So appreciate the leadership in that work. It is a task to take on.
Yes, it is.
And so that's, again, just high level overview, and Jason's going to talk more about the revised governance structure.
Sophia. So Sophia outlined what we plan to do. We also have to ensure we are structured in a way to be successful. Any of you who have served on a board, on a committee, know how important governance is, and being really clear about the group's goals, the role, the boundaries of their authority is really important. So we are going through a process to really review our current structure and see what kind of tweaks we might need to make as a continuum of care. This body of work to look at our current COC structure really came from my onboarding. As I mentioned, I've been here about 1.5 years now. I am a Boulder native, and went to see Boulder, but it's been 30 years since I've been back in this community. And so I had a lot of people to meet, a lot of new faces, wanted to check in and see how we were doing. How was the homeless response? How was MDHI? Was there any feedback? Were there things that we could improve? Were there things that we should do more of that we're doing well? Just really wanted to create as many opportunities to gain feedback in my first 90 days, 6 months as possible. And I heard time and time again that there were issues with how we were structured. I heard that there was a perception of a conflict of interest. So the current board structure is one that is oversees MDHI, the nonprofit organization. It also oversees the work and represents HUD as the continuum of care. And so as soon as I started hearing this, I had to do a deep dive on the sort of to see if there was any legal conflict. There was not, but the perception of conflict worried me. There also was a lot of comments. I don't know who's on your board. I don't know how they represent me or my region or my body of work. I'm not really connected to the board meetings. When are they? Where are they? Can I come? So a lot of questions about the board itself, and it seemed from my perspective, based on this feedback, that the board was operating in isolation, that there wasn't a lot of community knowledge about who these dedicated individuals who were doing amazing work were. And there wasn't a sort of reconnection or closing the loop from the work that was happening at the board back out to community. So the ask, why restructure? Why restructure now? It's really based on the feedback from the community. We need to address this conflict of interest. We need to broaden representation, clarify roles, have deep engagement with the community, make sure that we're organized in a way that really increases the quality of our organizing power. Want to make sure that lived experience is at the table with voting authority. We want to make sure that we're bringing subregions together with one voice. That doesn't mean all the work has to look the same at the local level, but we should be clear about when are we working together and when are we working separately. And then clarify how decisions are made and offer a level of transparency and accountability about who's involved. So I shared my sort of 90-day review with the board, the current board. And they were all nodding their heads. Yes, this is all true. And I thought that was a powerful step forward. It's not easy to hear criticism about a group that you feel so passionate about, you've given so many hours to, and to hear that it's not resonating in the community in the way that you intend, it's hard to hear. And so instead of kind of whining about it or feeling sorry for themselves, they got to work. They started to review how continuums of care across the country are structured. They wanted to learn, especially from communities that looked a lot like Metro Denver. So looking at large counties like Maricopa or King County in Seattle, looking at these large counties that had many, many municipalities and many other partners involved. Also wanted to look at complex jurisdictions like Los Angeles, where there were many cities and many housing authorities all sort of asked to play together through their continuum of care. So they did that scan, really started to piecemeal sort of, oh, I like this from Honolulu, I like that from Seattle, really enjoy how Chicago's doing something, Baltimore's doing something cool. Just started to really create a assessment of the things they enjoyed as they did this scan. We also knew that we had, how much time?
6:13.
6:13.
10 minutes.
10-minute warning? Okay. All right, thank you. I can do it. So they established a work group and we got HUD to provide some technical assistance. So they sent us 2 consultants who are experts in governance and structures, how boards should be set up. Really grateful for that. The work group and the TA providers with staff created a blueprint. Again, this is just sort of like putting in one document these aspects of COC structures from across the country that they were really enjoying. The TA providers made sure that those aspects that they were putting together in the blueprint aligned with the regs and rules at HUD and for COCs. We sort of kept this communication loop active to make sure that this was not happening in isolation just with the board's work group, but had the board's full attention. As I mentioned, March is an opportunity for community engagement. This thing is not, I was going to say it's not fully cooked. It's like still in the mixing bowl. And so we're bringing it out to community to get initial reactions, hear your questions. What are some things we should or might consider? My job after bringing this to community in March is to bring all of your feedback back to the board in April. I talk a lot about restructuring and what the future could look like. I'm often met with, well, how are you structured now? So just a quick, brief description of our current board, 13 members. And we'll send these slides. Well, we already have sent the slides. We'll make sure you have access to them so you could click on these hyperlinks. But the board members are on our website, so if you want to check those out and see if there's any names you're familiar with, please do. Geographically, it's a diverse group of people representing Jeffco, Denver, Aurora, Boulder, the Tri-Cities of Inglewood, Sheridan, and Littleton, as well as Adams County, the state of Colorado, and folks who represent the region as well. There's also—
Tell us who represents Boulder.
Yeah, there's Bridge House is in Boulder. You know, that one just as I'm saying this out loud, there was a transition.
Oh.
So Melissa has moved from Bridge House to advanced pathways over in Aurora. But we also have Leslie, who is has I don't know her exact title, but a leadership role at Boulder County Jail.
In the sheriff's office.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So we had two, now we have one representing Boulder. Sector diversity is strong. Demographic diversity is weak. Right now, terms are 3 years each. You can serve for up to 2 terms, so 6-year max. And if you really love this stuff and want to geek out on our governance structure, you can read our charter, which is available to you. So there's some early, this slide says decisions made, but some early consensus around what the future of the Continuum of Care Board could look like. First, it's on a number. So you'll see we're moving from 13 to 19, so growing the size of the board. This 19 would be comprised of 9 members who would represent the 9 subregions. So these would be dedicated seats so that each subregion had a seat on the COC board. How we select that person who represents Boulder and the other 8 subregions still needs to be defined. We have strong leads at the subregional level. They are mostly folks who work in governments. There's, I think, a strong argument that those individuals could make up these 9 seats on the board, but we want to leave that decision up to each of the subregions to define how they're represented on the board. 2 seats for lived experience. Right now, we have 1 young person from our Yelk who is represented on the board. We want to double that, have 2 seats there. And then 4 at-large seats. And the vision here is that these 4 at-large seats would be other systems. So think healthcare, education, workforce. I mean, really, there's so many intersections between homelessness and the solutions to homelessness and other systems. And so let's get those folks at the table. You'll see that 4 board members are non-voting. These are intended to be advisory. So we want to make sure that experts are in the room. Oftentimes, I've worked with and been a part of COCs for most of my career. And a lot of times people say no to their board participation because they don't feel like they have the expertise. They don't feel like they have the wealth of information that they need to represent. We want to make sure that expertise is at the table. So recruitment, this is where right now recruitment efforts are pretty isolated to a application that the board reviews, does some interviews, and the current board picks new board members. So it's a little self-serving. And we want to broaden that. We want to make sure that the recruitment fully engages with the community through our general membership. Also changing the terms slightly. You can still serve for 6 years, but it would be 3 2-year terms instead of 2 3-year terms. And the biggest part of this is we're really going to separate the 2 boards. There will be a board of directors for MDHI, the nonprofit, and separately there will be a continuum of care board. This is a busy slide that makes some people's brains hurt, but I wanted to keep it in this presentation to show really the arrows. I would say don't pay too much attention to the words and the number of bubbles, because all of that really needs to be sorted out still. But what I think is reflected here and why I enjoy this visual so much is that the arrows really show continuous communication and connectivity between the board, the COC membership, and all of the committees. The committees is really where the work is going to be done. And so you'll see several arrows moving from the committees back into the board for decisions and then back out to the membership. So I really like that this clearly shows how communication will move. So the work ahead, I'm here to present and get your feedback. We have to draft a new charter and bylaws, both for the COC as well as for NTHI's boards. We have to construct a new board and committee structure. We need to be in continuous communication with community. I think our next opportunity to do that will be at our April 22nd Metro Denver COC convening. Thank you, Commissioner, for being there last year and offering such a warm welcome. Invitations for this year's convening just went out yesterday morning. So if that hit your inbox, give it a click. Go ahead and join us. We need to develop a recruitment process. We also need to really secure what a new board member sort of orientation and continuity look like. This is just a timeline that basically says those same things. This will be an effort that will likely take much of 2026. We initially set a very ambitious goal of having this in place by July 1. And loved that date. It aligns with our fiscal year. It aligns with our current recruitment process. It just seems so clean, but I think it's impossible. So we're stretching this out to be a full 2026 timeline in order to get this done. For today, thanks again for your time. We really wanted to just affirm that this was the right work and the right time for this work. There's some things that you can do now to be involved. One, become a COC member. You can do that just by jumping on our website and offering us some information. That will also, on our website, you can join our MTHI newsletter. That's where we're going to push out a lot of information about the transition of the boards. It's not too early to start considering nominations. Are there people in your network that you think would be a great board member and representative of Boulder County? If so, start floating those names. Also, consider your interest. Are you interested in being a member of this board or joining one of the future committees? Start to socialize this. Please talk about this. I don't want this body of work to either our strategic plan or the board restructure to be happening in a silo. I want eyes and ears on this, so socialize this to the extent you can. And again, there's an opportunity to talk and learn more about the board restructure, our strategic plan. We'll have some Q1 data to share at our annual convening on Wednesday, April 22nd, at the Auraria campus in downtown. So thanks again.
Thank you both for presenting, for bringing some information, and the slide deck will go out with everything together and any other notes and things that we links and et cetera that we talked about tonight. So thank you. Any questions for the presenters? Anybody online? I checked the chat, but feel free to come off the mic if you have a question. All right, you have.
Yeah. I noticed the separation for the veterans group. So I'm a veteran and work with the organizing veterans at a state level and county also. And so I was just curious how those metrics are set. Like, is there a focus specifically on the veterans group, or is it just a intake process or somewhere where they're designated as them? If you can share more about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so in 2019, I want to say we set out to end veteran homelessness, and that was our priority population because we knew we could convene such a diverse community around the veteran population. So made that commitment in 2019, then started organizing the work in 2020. And this is in partnership with our local VA. So they manage the by name list. So anytime someone's entered into the homelessness management information system, they are then flagged and sent to the VA so that they can outreach them and get them connected to housing.
And Sharon, we work very closely with VC.
Yeah. Yes, literally. Okay. Yeah. So everyone across our entire region is very committed to this goal, and that's why it's called out first, is because that was our first commitment as a region to address veterans.
And is it typical to see such a drop like that, or is it VCP related for us, or is it?
It's a little all the above. HUD has actually really invested, so is the VA, in permanent housing solutions. We at the county have seen a year-over-year increase in our MASH allocation, which has been great. And then also simultaneously with VCP, when they were building the tiny home village, we dedicated 2 of those units for bridge housing. So the moment a veteran is matched to VASH, instead of them languishing on the streets and trying to like figure out how to place their voucher, we can immediately move them into one of the tiny homes so that they have stability, they have the case management wraparound supports while they're in housing search.
Yeah, and each of the now under 400 veterans is case conferenced by name. So Boulder County Trevor leads the case conferencing efforts here. So we know almost, not all, but almost all 400 veterans and their situations and what we need, what barriers exist in the system to get them into.
Is that, if I reach out and connect after this, that's, there's some data and metrics I can.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I would just highlight that the efforts, this really targeted effort collectively to focus on ending veteran homelessness for veterans is one, showing success. And therefore, 2, we want to duplicate it and see if we can have that same targeted approach to other populations across.
Like 500,000 veterans. Just wildly blown away at the number.
But now it's hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And we
It's
have
really
a really
exciting.
unique challenge here in Boulder County, which is Netherlands. So we do have an outreach effort in Netherlands that is both fire mitigation, but also working with folks in the backcountry. So like they literally take ATVs out there and like go and find folks camping on the US forest properties, and a vast majority, and part of the reason we've been, kind of hovering, yes, we've had a significant decrease, but a lot of veterans go up to Netherlands during the summer months. And so that's where we see most of our engagement. Yes, they do.
There's a question online if it's possible to give the statistics for Lafayette and Boulder County.
Yeah, we can pull those up.
Actually, it's 2 seconds. Question is, you mentioned you have a C3. Do you don't have a C4? Because I'm wondering, I mean, so much of this work leads to uncovering policy conflicts or a lack of policy directive, probably at either those counties or municipal levels, or for the better part, state or fed. How do you reconcile that when you're representing such a diverse group where maybe the challenges are you need a more cohesive policy from above to bring in that continuity? So how do you envision reconciling that, and where do our roles fit in advocating for that? I think of like, what we do with ADUs, right? That was so helpful that Judy Modelay had a bill. This work would have been really hard to do without sort of real statewide support for doing ADUs, right? So I'm thinking about in the homelessness space, how do we do that?
Yeah, you're correct, 501c3. And so we are not an advocacy organization. That's not a role that we serve. That said, we are in a position to make sure communities are informed, that we can deliver information, we can convene, make sure that people have a table to come to have those discussions. So it may not be advocacy and legislation bills that we're developing and pushing for, but we can make sure the space exists for those leaders to come together and hash those kind of things out. Sophia mentioned statewide convening where all 4 COCs were brought together, and we brought COC members into this convening. And Sophia in that meeting asked the question, what more do you need from us? What else? These are the things that we do, but what else should we be doing? And this idea of advocacy and flexing a voice, especially given that we do have these relationships across such a diverse region, was one thing that came up. So something, for us to consider, but in our current role as we're currently structured, that's not a role.
Yeah, and I think over the next 2 years, really focusing on what is that one voice that we have as a community and as a region, and strengthening that to then elevate it to state level and beyond.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in because in some ways we have to show a level of neutrality. So when I am asked to speak especially if it's at an event or part of an activity that's trying to push for a certain agenda. I can, again, just sort of, okay, I'm here to inform. Therefore, I bring data forward. I bring examples of what's working out in the community. So I sort of try to hold myself in that informing role, so that I don't get caught up in, what I believe personally, maybe a discussion or personal sharing that has happened inside of a board meeting. But we really try to, hold neutral and make sure people are informed.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And then I just want to check, you said 2 questions.
No, the other one can wait.
Okay, that's great. There's a hand behind too.
I'm curious about the board restructuring, so kind of going back to that, are you, I don't want to say honoring, but fulfilling people's commitment, or are you doing a full board disbandment and then reconfiguring? First question.
Yeah, really good question. So there are 4 options. We just went through this at the board meeting last night. So we laid out 4 options for the current board to consider. Are we going to have some level of personal preference for current board members? That'd be great for those 13 people. Limits the number of seats that would be available if they chose to join the COC board. There's the pendulum swings the whole other way. Like everyone's out, everyone has to reapply and get voted back in by the COC membership. And the other 2 are somewhere in between there. So those options are all out there for discussion, but haven't landed. The recruitment process as a whole has to be crafted. So haven't spent a whole lot of time on what recruitment should look like. But that will come.
Great. And I don't know if this is maybe more of just feedback for moving forward, but you did you kind of raise that issue of like, I don't even know who my board member is, and I don't know how they represent us or how they show up in those meetings. So I love that you're thinking through that. And if you do retain some board members, I am interested in understanding how those board members will communicate with us as Boulder County entity or even HSBC, the systems we're going to do, like we don't know our board member. I only know of her because I saw her name on the website, but I've never even met her. And so that is a bit problematic in that what level of engagement are board members, even when your new structure, going to maybe commit to?
Yeah.
Maybe it's none, and that's fine. I mean, we just.
It's not going to be known. And that wouldn't be fine.
Okay.
We're doing this structure intentionally and creating these 9 sub-regional seats so that you know exactly who your person is. In fact, you're probably part of making the decision about who that person is. And that person should be connected. It should, whoever selected for the Boulder seat should be in these other Boulder spaces. And so we're really looking for a direct line of communication between the board and those local tables. And there's a local table, sometimes multiple, in each of the 9 sub-regions. So we're really looking for someone who can be at both and be a conduit for information.
Great.
Any other questions? I think I have one. I was trying to let everybody else. I'm just curious around federal impacts and the concept that at a federal level that homelessness is. I'm like having real conversation.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to have some additional conversations in DC with the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, right when everything went away.
Yeah.
So just like, what does that mean for your organization and the work that you all are doing and choosing priority populations, et cetera?
It's a tricky time. For sure. We, in our role, we serve to implement the federal strategy on homelessness at the local level.
I think you mentioned
that is our
federal, so yeah.
That is our role. That is why COCs exist. Right now, there has been no formal change to the federal strategy on homelessness. We expect that change to come in the form of a notice of funding opportunity this summer. It will likely be a strategy shift away from housing, specifically away from permanent supportive housing, housing first, anything that could be even slightly colored as housing first, and more toward short-term, work-focused, treatment-focused activities. So we do anticipate, and we're planning for a pretty dramatic shift in how we currently direct federal funds at the local level. Right now, about 80%, about 78% of our total allocation of HUD funds go into permanent housing. And so if they ask us to shift that, that will be a trying time for sure. Sophia mentioned that we were borrowing the Boulder County fund map and trying to implement that fund map across the entire region. We're doing that so that we can do really careful contingency planning, looking at what dollars are invested across the region that have some kind of flexibility, that have some opportunity to maybe, if it's right now funding treatment and transitional housing, but now we have COC funds to do that. Could this instead fund the housing program and services associated with that? Of course, being careful not to be supplanting in any way, but like wanting to make sure that we're aware of what opportunities exist to keep those permanent supportive housing projects whole to the extent.
Just for clarity, we're doing that locally, like across, like in our, with our PHAs through the House Exits Working Group. We've been talking about this for 2 years now. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. We convene every other month executive directors of all the nonprofits. So we've done financial continuity operations planning. We've done all of that work. So we're fully ready to go. And so and like this really goes back to understanding the root of where your money comes from. Because so many times people think, oh, I got it from the state, but not realizing that it's a federal pass through the state. And so like a lot of the stuff that happened with SAMHSA a few months ago really was eye-opening for us about how much is really at risk. And so the state is also involved in this funding mapping, so we can start getting to where the actual source of the money is, and really assessing what's really how big the problem is.
Yeah. Just to highlight one other thing. So the continuum of care brings in about $35 million. So when I say 80% of that gets invested in supportive housing, that just kind of helps you understand the scale of that. But we are seeing other impacts that are non-COC related that are going to impact the work. So we were just in Aurora and heard troubling notice of voucher reductions that housing authorities are going to experience as early as September. There, we know that there are reductions in other safety net services that are going to impact how people afford to pay their rent. So this information that we presented today, I think if the environment were different, I think the goals would be more ambitious. I think more communities would have been willing to name other population types to see reductions, but we had to take a realistic look at what the funding environment was, what was going to be allowable, especially when tied to the federal government. So we're still going to do everything possible to make reductions across the region and exit as many people as possible into permanent non-time limited housing. But it's going to be a challenge.
And the one thing that so we did all the funding mapping and all of those things with the executive directors. The new topic is really how to address the work requirements specifically for SNAP and Medicaid, because that's a vast majority of like those that are in our housing. So I'm actually having lunch tomorrow with the workforce leadership team. And then we're really going to start looking at how do we support our executive leaders of our nonprofits as they kind of work in this new space. Like All Roads is already working on this pilot in partnership with Workforce Boulder County and the Boulder Chamber. to really kind of try on these like internships and getting people connected to resources. So the work is already starting to happen.
I wanted to jump in with the time check.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, because
Thanks again for having us. Really appreciate having an extended period of time during your meeting.
Yeah.
Good to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Great.
But what one region wants to besides, if you're really gonna get to understand.
Yeah.
So we had a break scheduled next.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
Do you want to keep going?
I think we, okay. Yeah, we'll keep moving. We're not gonna have a break, but anybody feel free if you're in the room and you need to get another snack or whatever you need to do, go ahead. Yeah, grab some food and Trevor, can you grab something too? So here's, we are gonna do 45 minutes of work and less than that. So really quick, first thing, we've got two more things on our agenda in regards to the Strong Towns presentation that we had at the end of January. And part of that homework assignment from that presentation was to do this housing ready assessment. So we're going to do that together. And then we're also going to get to share out an update from folks about what your jurisdiction is planning in regards to your ADU events. And so that's what we're going to do. And I think we can do it in a relatively quick fashion. So
fancy.
Yes. So, yeah, so if you want to start working on your QR code, that's totally fine. And while we're doing that, let's just have a little conversation in regards to takeaways from the Strong Towns presentation that was at the end of January. And I don't know who was able to participate there, but some people requested the link. We had other folks asking for it as well, just to understand the work that we're doing.
I'll sit by Trevor.
You're welcome. Usually we have. Okay. Yeah, okay. Did anybody watch the photo? You haven't seen it yet, so that makes sense. You don't have a debrief.
6 years ago, January, right? It was the end of virtual.
Yeah.
Weather. Right, okay, I remember it, but I knew about Strong Towns before this, so I think I'm conflating what I knew before the presentation.
That's okay. Was there anybody that had any thoughts or questions around that conversation? And it looks like Mayor Hidalgo Ferrin, you've joined us. Thank you. I missed that earlier. And if you want to just do a quick introduction, I was trying to catch folks when they joined.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm Mayor Susie Hidalgo Ferrin from the city of Longmont. Yeah, thanks for thanks for opening the Zoom. I was way delayed in a meeting with the city. So
Thanks for joining us.
yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, I attended that meeting and I wish our HCI person was here too. But what I saw and heard, I feel like, and I'm sure that most of the municipalities around here, it felt like we're doing a lot of that stuff already. I mean, of course, there's always places to make changes, but I walked away going, hey, that's great. And I feel like, at least in Longmont, our council and our housing community investment folks have already done some of that work and are in the midst of doing some of that work. So I felt pretty good about the presentation and where we are as a municipality, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's part of the assessment, because I think we need to see together, what does that mean? I think for me, what I heard was some energy around some of the pieces that we are already kind of what we've already started talking about and conceptually. So for me, I was really interested in the conversations about different types of educational events. We've talked about ADU fairs, but then we talked about, who the partners that could be part of that. So I'm hopeful that as we continue our conversation tonight that folks can pin down what they're gonna, where they're focused on, maybe what you've already talked with staff. So why don't we go into the housing ready assessment? So this is your opportunity to get your phone out. I know somebody had responded and I don't remember who it was. But it'll show up in the, was it? Sorry.
It was me.
Yes.
From Lions.
Okay, thank you. So
I also responded, I sent mine to Heidi.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to follow them.
Oh, okay. So go ahead and do your assessment and then we're gonna do, Heidi's gonna help us put a visual together live time. So that we can see together, Alberta, what you just talked about.
Does everybody have the QR code so I can jump into the forms?
Did you pull the information from the county? Did you?
I couldn't do it and have it live at the same time. I wish we had. Firewall. Yeah, because it's internal. For your supervisor meeting, you always have Mentimeters.
It's the Microsoft Teams.
Jurisdiction. 24-hour turnaround.
The cultural broker. Everybody's listening to this. Yeah, I've seen works do that.
Is that a standard issue?
Go into.
We're getting results to be able to put onto the slides here for everybody.
I got a huge firewall.
I'm just kidding.
So this could be new. We put in on new isotopes, but it's cool.
Have you guys done parking minimums yet? Have you guys done your parking minimums yet?
It's on the project. Well, the state law, yes.
So you already got house rates.
Yeah.
That's
Still in minus two. People.
You want me to just? I'll be stuck. Okay, that's working. I just got mine submitted.
Let me try turning on my other computer.
Longmont, have you got yours input?
So I am seeking clarification. Well, so I just texted Harold to find out for number 6, the 24-hour turnaround.
Your login.
I mean,
No.
Oh, you don't do that? That's not a,
No.
nobody's doing that.
We're just teasing in general.
What's that?
We're just teasing in general to each other about the fact that maybe nobody's got a number 6 of the yes, but we'll.
I know, yeah. I mean, other than that, I'm just going to mark no.
I think that's a safe bet right now, but we. can
Yeah,
just
because I
continue
can't
to do
confirm the reality of that.
That's fine. Is there
Okay.
anybody else that's working on Louisville?
We submitted ours, just now.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Okay.
To you.
All right, this is what we'll do. We're gonna let staff work on the background magic. And let's together, working group, move into the last 2 items that's really about the share out. We're here to listen to what y'all have planned, what 2026 calendars look like in regards to the ADU events. And I say events because originally we talked about ADU fairs. We put together the ADU toolkit all together. We had an ADA accessibility version put together for everybody as a template. There are places in that toolkit for you to put your own websites and your local contact, etc. But that was completed and Heidi sent that out last month as the final version. So who'd like to start and just share what you're doing, what you've got scheduled, so that we have an idea of where we are in our 2026 work plan.
Anne Marie here, I can go.
Thank you.
We have a land use working group that has been tasked with making changes to our land use code that is more reflective of not just ADUs, but duplexes, triplexes, makes it easier to do in certain parts of town to do that kind of development. But we've asked them as council to also look into ways we can support people building ADUs, people on fixed income, people who need help with financing, maybe developing some pre-approved plans, not just ADUs, but, the research I've seen also says ADUs are not necessarily more affordable per square foot unless you do something to make them affordable. So that same working group, they probably won't get to it right away, but they have been tasked to look at what things we can do to help people, especially seniors, and how to offer their ADU and we give them some support or assistance, and in exchange they offer the ADU at an affordable rate. So that's what we're working on, and probably won't get into that second phase of what are the incentives till the fall.
Thank you. And I wonder, and I'm just thinking right now, because Councilmember Sampson was the rep previously and was working on the ADU toolkit with this group as a regional group, there may be a little handoff opportunity of information. I think the question for this group, because again, this is similar to the conversation we just heard from the presenters, we're all as different jurisdictions doing different work, and that is great. And we'll continue to do that. This group has made a commitment together to focus on this topic, and staff has put in a lot of time and resource to create an ADU toolkit based on our requests as members of this group. So Anne Marie, I'm wondering if it would be helpful for you and I to have a conversation just to catch up on the toolkit, and or even staff I know offered that in our last meeting as well.
That'd be great. I did go through the toolkit, looked at it, but it seems to me the follow-up needs to then happen at the local level about the kinds of things we do to make ADUs actually contribute to affordability. So I don't think we're in conflict. I guess I think the detail and the specifics has to come locally.
We agree for sure. And so that's why we made kind of as generic as a template that we could with everybody's input and a whole lot of edits and compromise to make sure that it was kind of generalized. And then again, it gives that local opportunity of information and contact points and websites and things like that as additions. So let's do that. We'll get together and have a conversation just so this group understands if Lafayette is going to be participating in the ADU events for this group, in addition to other work that's happening.
Are we gonna go through those slides after we do the ADU update stuff? Or
Do you want to go through them?
I just want to know timing, because I'm just curious who the single hero is here.
I know. Go to a different slide, because it's yeah, there's a competition happening. Yeah. Thank you. All right, Longmont.
Yes. So, so I've been working with some families or just homeowners, especially in, there's certain neighborhoods that are non-HOAs, that are they're more open to having, built into, fourplexes, threeplexes. So really looking at some of our Old Town areas where people have been able to create duplexes and triplexes on their property with the larger yards. For us, some of the bigger barriers is really just navigating around the HOAs, and so many of the new developments are under HOAs, and they have their own restrictions and their own bylaws and what is permissible in their developments. It was very helpful that the state passed the ADU law and we went in and we adjusted our ordinances to allow for that. One of the things, and then we kind of looked and took a deeper look at the what are the barriers. So looking at costs. So what are some ways that we could reduce that barrier as far as cost implications for homeowners to add those ADUs, and or even convert from single family to duplex. And having those stock plans, having these ready-made plans that if they went through this that were already vetted by the city, that it would make that process go faster. So looking at those pieces. And and what we're finding as I get out in the community more, and just even with my own personal experience with having 2 kids with severe mental illness, is we are looking at how are our kids as they are in adulthood in our 30s and we're aging and we're unable to care for them, what's going to happen after the fact. So looking at IDD and housing opportunities for people who need that, little extra assistance and lower cost for housing, where maybe these duplexes where, you can have a family member in one side and your child on the other side. And what we're finding even with our with our unhoused population is that there's a lot of mental health factors, disability factors, cognitive disabilities. So having these opportunities to keep them housed before they get out, on the streets and they're unhoused, and kind of redirecting and reallocating resources to get them off the street and permanently housed. So yeah, we're doing we're doing stuff. And yeah, I need to follow up on the ADU fair, so I apologize for not having all my homework done. But I will get back to you on that.
Okay. Thank you for that. All the different pieces that both of you have brought up are what this group has been talking about for a while. So I don't think anybody in the table has any opposition about the reasons why ADU could be very important and some of the solutions that can give it for people. And the question right now for the next folks is, when is your ADU fair? What is your jurisdiction doing to use the ADU toolkit so that we can do what I just heard you talking about, Mayor? Educate people about and get people connected to the different opportunities. So thank you for that. And we'll look forward to hearing what Longmont Council decides to do and when. Let's see, who's next? Lyons.
Yeah, hi there. So unfortunately, I didn't see that on the agenda. I didn't reach out to our town planner to see if anything had been planned. I haven't heard of anything. I also know that we have a municipal election happening next month, so we're in like campaign mode right now. I imagine this is something that the new board of trustees, when they're seated on April 20th, will discuss. I have emailed her and we'll hope to hear from her before the end of my term, so that at least there's something on the books that we can bring forward.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Superior, yeah, and I'm open.
Let's see, where do I start? So we received the DOLA grant for $225,000 for our ADU development plan, essentially, which was really awesome because it's funds that the planning department intends to use to stand up the ADU program, specifically the marketing, but also to have 1 or 2 pre-approved ADU plans that people can just access immediately. And anecdotally, in my own experience, which I was not planning at all when this group started, is my mom's transitioning from Chicago to here. And I'm now looking at building an ADU in an HOA, and I don't think anyone has done it yet. I'm aware that people are having quotes and things done But what I'm doing is just documenting everything so that the planning department has the process. I'm thinking about it from a perspective of how do I teach this to someone else to do this? And what I'm finding is, the HOA's policy on it is very vague. And it says things like, has to look like the main house and, they're not gonna require things that are cost prohibitive. But, I'm running into things like we have cement tiles. Well, they don't put those on ADUs. And so what is that gonna look like? So I think I'm gonna navigate probably the first process of this, which means there's gonna be, some friction, but also maybe some things that 10 houses later may not be able to, I don't know what it's gonna look like. But the biggest issue is that the HOA prescribe, or is it 500 to 750 square feet? And that's a problem because 500 square feet is basically the max that it could go in my yard, right? And so we're pushing it to physically uncomfortable for our own space, but it is required to be that size. And so I think that's a deterrent that's going to be a problem for people. And I feel like I have a pretty big yard that was almost not big enough to hold the minimum required one for this. And so I can imagine revisiting that later, maybe from a state perspective. I don't know, but it's gonna be a problem, right? Like that's gonna be problematic because most people's lots aren't that big. And interesting process. But I think because they have been working on figuring out what this program's gonna look like, and I was hoping we'd have something in Q1. I think it's definitely not gonna happen in Q1. I think Q2 is kind of the rollout that we're looking at. And I will be more involved than I imagine.
Thank you. So just so I'm understanding for my notes.
Yeah.
Q2 is likely to have some type of an ADU fair in connection with that solar grant that you got. Awesome. Thank you. Boulder.
Yeah, so interestingly, we've been doing ADUs for quite a while in Boulder. The buy right is a great thing. The bill did. Unfortunately, what the bill did also was gutted our affordability covenants that we were able to leverage with regards to parking and other things. So like Councilmember Jensen was sort of referring to, we too are exploring how do we sort of bring back structured affordability covenants now that the bill has kind of outlawed most of the tools that were in our tool chest. So we're in that exploration phase ourselves. Our updates on ADUs are really going to be centered on our updating our Boulder Valley comprehensive plan that we're working alongside the county on. And that's where we're going to be changing a lot of our land use to be much more broad. And so we won't have all these sub residential areas. They'll be much broader, in which case it'll make sort of a lot easier to do ADUs. It won't be as challenging about where and how and some of these yard sizing issues that you were bringing up. We are, because we're so deep in the BVCP, we are pausing on, well, not really pausing, we just realized we can't really get going on pre-approved form and layouts for ADUs. I know that's a goal for us to really get after, but I think we got to get past the comp plan process to really lock that in. The comp plan process is also going to force us to redo Title IX, our land use code. And that's where I think we have a lot of opportunity because right now, a lot of our land use code is internally inconsistent. And that is a big problem with dealing with ADUs because we deal with other things like setbacks and removal of driveways. And all of a sudden, what should be a rather modest investment in an ADU becomes a few $100,000 of cascading costs because these other codes are triggered. So we got a lot of cleanup to do in order to make sure we maintain some of that clear predictability and affordability. But that's all coming. And then family-friendly, vibrant neighborhoods. I think my predecessor in this group, Lauren Volkers, this was one of the things she spearheaded in late 2025. We passed that ordinance, which allows some of this duplex and converting of usually tri-levels into an ADU or a more duplexing, more or less, but some nuances on there. And that's by right along a transit corridor with 350 feet from that transit corridor. So not quite where we want to go, but it's certainly on that process. So a few things in there. Now, with regards to the fair, I am waiting an update from staff. I think they're waiting to get further through the comp plan before committing to a fair. So they haven't given me a sense of when that is, but assuming there's no hiccups in our comp plan process, then maybe that's a Q3, Q4 thing that we'll be able to pull off.
Great, thank you. Louisville, did I not follow you? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
That's okay. Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, no worries. So I would say overall where we're at right now sounds very similar to what Boulder just described. You know, I confirmed that the toolkit, you know, is in the hands of staff. They have reviewed it and are aware of its content, but right now we have a few things in flight that need to get to the finish line, like comprehensive plans, some code rewrites that really need to be finished to lay the foundation of how we will then structure and utilize that toolkit for any sort of ADU fair. So I hesitate to give an estimate right now, but just to confirm with you all that we have it in hand, staff is aware of it, and we need to get these foundations first before we can figure out how they will support those other projects that we have in flight. We do, I mean, I'm excited to see some incoming inquiries from some residents around town about ADUs. As you all might remember, we just passed our ADU ordinance last year in response to the state requirements. We had no ADU on the books before then. They were not legal in Louisville. So I'm excited to see where we go now that we have that on the books. And then we have these other documents in flight as well, and this toolkit in our back pocket to implement when all that's completed.
Thank you. I think we had everybody. Okay. Thank you all. I know everybody's anxious to take a look at the numbers. So listen, it's 7:08 and we've got about 15 minutes. So let's take a look at these scores. And this was just for some of you who haven't gotten a chance yet to listen to the January 28th presentation, this is an example of one of the tools that exists in all of the different resources that Strong Towns has for different communities to work on ADU collectively, et cetera. It is the baseline of where am I and what else could I be doing? So that's what we're looking at now. Go ahead, Heidi.
So Councilmember Benjamin, you wanted to know who the loan.
It's the hero.
Who's the hero? Is there anyone who was? Is it
Longmont.
Nice work. Bravo.
Yeah. Again, it's not in all spaces, but you know, we have in some of our older HOA areas, we have that. And you know, just how do we make it more feasible for people to take up on that is what our next steps are.
Fantastic. I'll just say, I mean, for us, our challenge is intensity standards in our comp plan in terms of units per acre. So that's always been our biggest hurdle. So we're hoping to change that, but bravo, good job.
And what would it look like to get some of those SRO waivers for people who want to offer HUD vouchers in their home? Yeah, that might be something we could talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got the waiver in hand, so.
Okay, let's keep going here.
Does your town or city permit backyard cottages in all residential zones? Pretty much across the board, yes. Are starter homes legal in all residential zones and split? Has your town or city eliminated minimum lot sizes in existing neighborhoods? There's a single hero.
Who's that?
Is that you,
It's
Mayor?
Longmont.
I know.
Hey, now you're showing off.
I'm sorry. And I was getting confirmation via text to make sure that I.
Thank you.
Has your city eliminated parking mandates? A little split too.
A clarifying question about that. Given the state law now has mandated us, is this just everyone are the nose people playing catch up to the elimination of parking minimums and other pieces like that? I'm just an open question.
Yeah, is there anybody that,
Sorry, I can answer for Lions. I honestly think it's a case by case scenario for us. I think it's when the major development review comes around, and that's when we take a look at parking if we need to.
thank you.
And last but not least. Nobody can get 24-hour approval.
I guess
Um,
folks- Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I texted my husband because he does sort of permitting stuff in his work, and Harold just texted me back too. They both said that is not feasible. So, and they're in the trade, so
That's polite.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Is anybody in the state able to say yes?
I'm really curious about that.
What's the model for this? I've heard that Charlotte, North Carolina actually does have like an expedited version of Fast Track that is that fast.
Yes, I think it's also a software thing. I think some of them have their approvals go through a software package. Much like there was this, remember the solar bill that was trying to allow solar by right, and it was through this app that the state was doing, and it would be like 24-hour turnaround. And we all freaked out because we're like there's other things to consider. So yeah, it's usually it's a technology class, which is great. But
Well, yes, there's gotta be an AI piece to that, but it also is a policy. There has to be some kind of streamlined commitment to even get us into an app in my mind. So I think it's a yes and, but so in the Strong Towns presentation, these different questions were really to get us all together thinking. And I do want to make sure folks who haven't been in those conversations yet, they're very excited about what this region is doing. And the comment was like, if everybody's regions could get together and really make a commitment to try and address housing in this way and trying to use what's already there, what already exists. So just want to make sure you all know that they're very impressed by y'all's participation in this particular working group. So thanks for participating, and hopefully that gives us a good idea. And it also can now help us tell our own planning team, like, hey, you know what our neighbors are doing?
Yeah.
Over up north.
That's a good idea.
And what else could we do? So with that, what I want to do, we just have a few more minutes. We need to make some decisions with this group. Go ahead.
Friday. Sage Ridge tour. Anybody going that hasn't already committed?
Do you want to just make sure they can hear you?
Yeah, so for those who maybe missed it in the email, we are doing a tour of Sage Ridge out in Watkins. Don't ask me where it is. It's on a map somewhere. And it is the Fort Lyons, it's the newer version of Fort Lyons with withdrawal management. I did not hear from anyone else that they wanted to go, but we wanted to just do a last minute. Are you sure you don't want to go tonight?
And the tour is Friday afternoon, this Friday, and the tour at the site is 2 to 4, but that means you leave an hour before and you get back an hour later, just from a planning. So if anybody is interested, Heidi needs to hear from you tonight. So even if you need to go home and look at your schedule, she needs an email from you tonight if you'd like to participate on Friday. So thanks for setting that up. And the state's going to be there. It's going to be a bigger event than I think they were thinking initially, which is great if it helps inform us leaders and staff. So thanks for the reminder on that piece. And then our next meeting as a group is May 13th. Did you have a question?
Is there any way, since there isn't participation, like, is it a conflict for people that, like, would there be attendance if it was a later schedule? Like, I'd like to go, I just can't.
We've been working with the state for several
Okay.
months actually, but we do have a lot of support staff going, Jen, so we're really happy to follow up or take any questions for you. And I think staff is really looking through several different lenses, which is why there's so many different staff. What's the experience like for somebody who is to go there? Is this something that Boulder County may want to invest in the future? I mean, there's like a lot of different reasons why we're going.
And we have part of the reason why the time is the way that it is because there are residents already moved in. And so
Yeah. Yeah, and we are meeting with state staff also to do like a discussion. Be good, I know. Sorry.
It's a once in a life opportunity. It's fine. You'll be fine.
We will be happy to help you get scheduled with them at another time.
Thanks for that question. So here's what I do, where I was going on this, for our last 8 minutes-ish together. This group has put a lot of effort and a lot of work together, and staff has done a lot of editing and support for an ask around how do we educate our residents throughout Boulder County about ADU, what that means, how people can address some of the barriers. We've had a conversation previously in the fall, end of the year fall, about like what could financing, like what kind of collaborations, partnerships. So we've put a lot of energy into this particular topic, which is one of those prioritized items on the list for this working group. If you remember, this group came from almost 2 years ago, a session out at the Southeast Lafayette Hub with the county with a bunch of elected officials at the table asking, what might we do collectively, regionally in Boulder County to address some of the pieces around homelessness? And so my question for you all is, because we all thought educating and maybe doing some of the fairs or events together or similar timing just to get the buzz and the marketing and do some collaborative work was one of the goals. I need to see and hear from everyone tonight just to know if that's still something we want to work on, because staff has provided the toolkit, so we could let everybody kind of go do their thing. That's an option. Or we could try and line up and kind of have some from a social media, from a marketing, from a buzz and people asking. What we were trying to avoid is somebody saying, wait a minute, you were doing that in Longmont? I didn't hear about it. I didn't know, because jurisdictions are, people don't quite understand the difference between Boulder or Boulder County, as an example. So this is what I would like us to talk about in the last few minutes. And we just need to have a decision of, do we want to come back at the May 13th meeting with a final decision from you and your councils about, are you moving forward with the ADU toolkit and doing a fair or an event, educational type of event in 2026? That's one answer that you can come back with. Or two, we are going to use the toolkit at some point in our kind of however we would like to do, which is also a fine option. And or do we want to in May start thinking about a conversation about one of these other topics? Do we think we're there? Yeah. So I want folks to kind of think about for a minute. May 13th is the next meeting, so we don't have to make a decision tonight, and it's not even April. We have the time. Are there questions about what we need to make a decision about? Council or trustee? Katie?
Yeah, so I am happy to come back on May 13th if I'm still an elected official to give you some information on what Lions intends to do in 2026. But I've got to say, I was super excited about what we heard from the presentation in Austin, Texas, and I would love to explore if that's feasible in Boulder County or not. I mean, I would love to revisit that, to be honest. And I think we have some new elected officials here that might want to be brought up to speed and also see if this is something that's feasible for our region.
Sure. Send out the playback of that one specifically, and then maybe we can do a vote of like what people want to do ahead of May 13th.
That would be, that's an option. I want to have folks who are in the room give some input, and then we can decide if that's the direction, then we can do that for sure. Lafayette, Louisville, Longmont.
I can go next. So, I start thinking about, projects or, things in the pipeline that are coming to Longmont with Front Range, First and Main Station, Front Range Passenger Rail, and looking at staff capacity. So, I'm trying to be cognizant of that. And, and so I would like to continue the educating the community piece is going to be huge. I don't know if we can commit or for, I think kind of tapping into the toolkit and refining what we're doing and getting that education piece out to the public is definitely going to be what we're working on. But I don't want to give a date certain as far as doing any kind of event, because I know staff capacity and tying up, I don't want to tie them up to something to this with knowing what's coming down for us. I am, I agree with Trustee Daly that I am intrigued. I am intrigued with what's happening in Austin. I would really love to go to that event or to the tour. I'm just not able to this Friday. But next Friday I would be able to, but it's too late to change. So yeah, so in one point or another, maybe I can connect with that group by themselves and see what's going on. But yeah, no, I think looking at supportive services as well would be a good use of our time.
This is Anne Marie. I moved to Colorado from Austin, and I actually have a friend who lives in that tiny home community. I think it makes sense to do communication and education about ADUs in a coordinated fashion. I don't know all the details of what everybody else is doing, and I'd love to, as being new to this group, I'd love to be able to, have a one pager that gives everybody some thoughts about creative ways to help people get in ADUs and make them more affordable. And I'm sure that fellow communities will have good ideas about that. So I'd love to try and do that in a coordinated fashion if that can be done. I can tell you it has not come up since I've been on council. We have a very full agenda, kind of like Longmont, with lots of things going on. And I will have to push it to, get our participation. And while we were talking, I emailed the city manager and the planning staff person who handled that to see about getting together with them. But I do like the idea of the Austin model of tiny homes with supportive services, but I also think we need some community input, from providers, from people who are on the ground dealing with homelessness. And I think, the Veterans Community Project may also have some feedback about what's working and what isn't in their project, and what they, now that they're pretty far along, they would have done differently if they, could have, what lessons they learned from that. So I think there's a bit of education and input needed. Like if this is a regional tiny home model, how do we do that, right? If it serves multiple communities, we do, I guess, have the model for all roads, which serves multiple communities in the county, but I don't really know how that works and how we would do one project in one location that would serve, multiple cities. And so I'd want to understand that a little bit better. And so I think there's some homework that we would do, I'm assuming, to get us further down the road on this tiny home model.
Yes, for sure. That would be, once we decide we're gonna move to either bullet point 2 or bullet point 3, then that would be, we're getting together and that's gonna be the focus, and staff's gonna help us get information together. So yes, whenever we get to either one of those topics, we just did not try and do all 3 at one time or 2 at one time, because it's just, for all the reasons y'all are expressing, there's not capacity.
One other thing with regard to the third bullet and supportive services, many of the communities in Boulder County are very small, don't have staff devoted to any kind of services like that. And I'm assuming then that would come through the county in some way. So before we decide which of these two to pursue, it might be good to understand what the county, like, let's say, we have a new development and we end up putting in 20 units of supportive services. what could the county offer us? Because we can't provide supportive services. We don't have, you know, a human services department or anything that could do that kind of thing. So it'd be good to know how the county could help, how the affordable housing money that we have could be used for that. What would be the process? I don't know the answer to how far I want to go down that third bullet until I understand a little bit more about how we would do the supportive services part. We could get the housing built, but then getting the services, I don't know how that works.
Thank you. And we haven't had any discussions. You haven't missed any discussion, those on the bullet point 2 and 3, just so that you know. And I'm saying that to Councilmember Benjamin as well, just so you don't feel like you've missed something. No. It's totally a concept. Thank you. We've got 2 minutes. Superior. Okay, go ahead, Louisville.
Commissioner, will you please restate your question that you're wanting us to answer?
Yeah, the question is, do we want to come back to the May 13th meeting with a information about what your city or town is going to be doing in regards to the ADU fair? Or do you want to take the toolkit that's been put together and kind of do it on everyone do it on their own timeline? And or do we want to just move to 2 or 3 of the bullet points?
Okay, so I think from Louisville's perspective, I don't see anything changing between now and the next meeting, if I'm being completely honest with our timeline. You know, I think we've been pretty consistent from the beginning that our staff implementing a fair, you know, that's not county-wide, which I understand why the county can't do that, is unlikely to happen this year. So I would be in favor with using that meeting time for something different. I just want staff and everyone that's been involved thus far to know that we do find the toolkit very useful. It's just our timeline of when we can implement it doesn't happen to align necessarily right with this group this year, but we do have it tucked in our back pockets and plan to utilize it when we can. So I don't see us changing anything between now and the next meeting, and I'd be in favor in moving on to a different topic.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay.
My concern about doing something collectively is every jurisdiction has different ADU rules. So to me, I would need to very much look more like keeping people's interest in ADU or expressing some of the state law change. Because what I keep running into is people don't know that they can do these things. And so the campaign to me would be better modeled at directing people to get with their jurisdictions versus like just ADUs in general. But some of the myths about them or you know what it means or costs or things that like pique people's interest, but as a regional campaign, but then directs them to the municipality, because I don't know how we're all so different. So I don't know how we collectively have a campaign that gives very much information without sending it back to the municipality. And then, yes, I would just agree with Barbara, like we should move on to the next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll try to be brief. So Boulder's not lacking for awareness or education on the front of ADUs. It's a cost per square foot. That's a prohibitive factor right now, why we're not seeing a greater uptick. So, you know, but for everyone else who's, you know, earlier in the ADU game and where they need the education, I don't want our perspective to stand in the way of that. So, but happy to support education if that's the will of the group for sure. And then sort of, and with that said, I think moving on to the tiny home conversation and PSH is important. Big question I have about tiny homes is something we've looked at here in the city. Problem is cost of land, and is that the best, most effective use of the land with tiny homes versus stacked affordable flats like we see with Bluebird and other PSH and other transitional housing. For Boulder, the cost of land is really hard to justify tiny homes on. So it's a question of whether or not that could be something in cheaper land areas like unincorporated Boulder County. But then it raises the issue of whether supportive services are in close enough proximity to justify the investment in those locations. So those are some unanswered questions that I have, but I think that it's a worthwhile thing to continue to pursue, as well as just greater PSH. That's something we've been investing in pretty heavily here in the city. I know our friends in Longmont have too. So I think that's definitely greater good work that can be expanded on that front.
Thank you. Here's my takeaway. It's 7:30. I appreciate each one of you. And I'm looking at staff, so we'll have a debrief and pull those notes together and then follow up with the presentations that we saw tonight. The results of the assessment, just for everybody to share with their groups. And then we'll come back together with most likely an online event called an email before May 13th. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you, staff. I really appreciate your thank you, your work. And I'm gonna, you done here.